Hi, welcome to my presentation on training and development. I've changed the name of my interviewee and have called her Tara Black, and she is the HR Vice President of HCA. So the agenda of the presentation is that I'll first start by talking about Tara Black's profile and move on to her professional background in HCA. I'll talk about her growth in becoming an HR leader and the lessons that she had to learn to get to the position that she's in now, and the challenges that she found in her company in training and development, and the theoretical applications I was able to apply from class in training and development. So, the profile of Tara Black. Before 2000, Tara Black had her degree in accounting. She was not enjoying the work that the accounting degree had her do, and she decided to learn what the HR people did. She found their job very interesting, and she would ask different people, like, how do you do that? How do you do this? And that was how she became an HR assistant. In 2000, she moved to Houston and started working for HCA, and she was an HR assistant. After 6 months, she moved up to HR generalist, and after another 6 months, HR recruiter, and after 6 to 8 months, she became manager. It took her 7 years as an HR manager to become the director of HR, where she learned a lot of life lessons that we will discuss in this PowerPoint, as well as managerial training. And after that, when the company had a changeover in terms of their HR structure, she was renamed the Vice President of HR. And this was a strategic move for the company. So her professional background, what does she do in the organization? According to her LinkedIn, she is in charge of planning, implementing, and directing the human resources functions that support the department, administration, and faculty. She is the primary resource for all the aspects of HR management and does regulatory compliance, employee relations, salary and wage administration, benefits, recruitment, employee development, and employee health and workers' compensation. When the company made that strategic move, what they did was they took the director of HR position and they made it a function that was more involved in the company. It became more strategic. It included leadership coaching. She was in charge of teaching managers employee engagement and how to relate to their employees on a personal level. So this is the transition that happened in HCA and the development from the HR roles. Previously, when she had first joined in 2000, HR was very administrative. She found herself behind the computer a lot of the time, doing a lot of paper applications. She spoke in her interview about having stacks and piles of paperwork everywhere and boxes all in her office. People had the idea that HR professionals were just there to hire and fire. They didn't see their faces, so they didn't know them, and they felt very isolated. They had no HR training for the HR representatives, so they didn't have any idea really what their function encompassed. What happened from that was that they started implementing training and they were able to have clear expectations for HR. The team was taught how to inspire employee engagement and how to coach and how to mentor management. So now Tara Black finds herself out in the workforce a lot. She's extremely involved, and she went from being behind the computer to in the workforce, engaged and actually helping her management team, supporting them. So this next section is going to be how Tara Black was able to become a leader and the lessons that she had to learn in her workforce to get there. After moving so quickly to HR manager, she had to spend 7 years overcoming personal challenges to become the director of the HR. She really spoke about working on herself with the help of God, and she was able to achieve her goal of becoming VP. What were the few things that she had to learn? One was attitude. She spoke about how she used to have a bad attitude with people, and I mean, in HR, you're going to find a lot of disgruntled employees. She spoke about employees coming into her office and having really bad attitudes towards her, which would make her want to fire back at them. This was something she really had to manage. She had to learn how to communicate by listening. She said a lot of times she found that employees just wanted to be heard. So when she was able to take a step back and not be so affected in her emotionally, she was able to listen to them to listen to the issues that they had, and she was able to communicate with them effectively. She spoke about pulling them up to her level of communication and not going down there and arguing and yelling and screaming at each other. Another challenge was being a Black female leader. She spoke about there being differences in how she could carry herself in her leadership position because of her skin color. And because she was a female, she said that, she'd be sitting in the meeting and everybody would say a joke that she just didn't get. Or she would look at a way a white female dressed, and if she dressed the same way, she would get reprimanded for it. So she had to be very aware that it wasn't the same rules that applied. So, what were the training and development challenges that she particularly found in her company? One of the things she spoke about and really emphasized was inconsistency. She said sometimes, one of the hardest things to deal with in a training and development session is when people come and they're not showing up on time or they're not dressed appropriately. She said she really can't stand it when somebody shows up and they're wearing jeans and they relax. It doesn't look like they're ready to work and ready to put their best effort forward. And the most annoying problem for her that she found with this was that managers condoned it because they might have had some friends in training, or because they had an employee that they liked. They would just be like, well, I told her not to do it, instead of sticking to what they had previously agreed upon and maintaining the structure and maintaining the standard of training. Another thing that she struggled with is policy. And she said that as an HR manager, you have to stick to policy across the board and make sure that you are being fair to every employee. One scenario that she used was explaining that there was two people who were caught sleeping in the job. They both worked in different departments. While in one department, the lady who was sleeping on the job got fired immediately because the policy of the company is instant termination if you are caught sleeping on the job. The other lady who was caught sleeping on the job, the manager didn't fire her and came to Tara Black and said she's a single mom, she has two jobs, and he just felt sorry for her. So she understood the emotional aspect of it, but as an HR representative, you've got to make sure that the policy runs across the board, because that could lead to a lawsuit if you're not staying consistent within your managerial structure. So she had to fire the lady. If she decided not to fire the lady, she would have to bring the other lady who got fired back in and explain to her that she's now being rehired. So she spoke about having to do training, management, and letting them know the policy too, because something she spoke about was having a manager ask some inappropriate questions during an interview, and having to have a training session with them and say, hey, this is the policy. I write out your interview questions for a reason. If you have a question that you feel you want to ask, you have to run it through me, because it could lead us to a lawsuit. So the way she felt to really ensure success in training and development was something that she emphasized was finding the perfect trainer fit. She spoke about not just having anybody train who just knows how to use the program, but having somebody who really was made for this job. She spoke about having somebody who learned the program as well as the creator, who knows it inside and out and who knows how to manage it, and someone who did it for a living. She said not having your friend or your relative, because you want to hire them, come and run the training, but a professional, someone who was made for the job. Why? Because that person will be engaging. That person will know how to be patient with different types of personalities and different learning abilities in the group, and they are passionate about it. And she said that you can really see the passion from somebody when they're running a training session. If they're not passionate about it, you can tell that they're just there for the money, and it makes you disengaged and you're not able to learn from them. So for this final section, I want to talk about the theoretical applications of training and development that I was able to apply to this interview. I'm going to be speaking about outsourcing training, diversity in training in HR, evaluating training programs, and the 360-degree feedback system. So one of the things that my interviewee really emphasized was the diverse nature of her being a Black female in the workplace. And it made me think about applying training to different races, different genders, and different generations. What she spoke about was different races and having to teach Black people code of conduct, attitude awareness, and being professional, something that she was able to speak about from her personal experiences. It made me think about also her place as a female and making sure that females are properly coached on appearances, how to dress, how to act, and how to protect themselves in the workplace. It also made me think about different generations. She spoke about coming from not having any technology and doing a lot of manual paperwork to a place where they have a lot of technology. And it made me want to compare the idea of training a millennial versus training a baby boomer, training a Gen Xer. I know that millennials need a lot of time alone. They like to do independent work, and baby boomers are very focused and structured on their own too, but they like to be rewarded and promoted. Millennials like to be supported and recognized. So just how to tailor your training program that it is effective on both scales. Another thing that Tara outlined was outsourcing training and not compromising on the perfect trainer fit. And this would properly ensure that your employees and representatives are equipped. I would say outsourcing training because it's a professional who engages the audience and is trained for the job. It's not somebody's friend or somebody's relative who has come in and knows the program, but it's somebody who is made to teach other people how it works. I think that this allows a higher standard on your employees and your management. One thing that I think would be useful for HCA to employ is evaluating training programs. She wasn't able to tell me too much about the growth of their training, and I think that's because they don't have evaluations. One of the ways to do this is by questionnaires or rating systems where you can have people speak about the stuff that they knew before training and what they learned after training, and you can see the progress and the impact that your training system has. Another thing that I think would be useful is 360-degree feedback systems. Tara spoke about having managers not really knowing the policies, not interviewing correctly, or about the way that is laid out in policy. And I think that a 360-degree feedback system would let the HR team know where their managers and their leaders are as far as how they're treating their employees. This would also help with employee retention and employee engagement. And that will be the end of my slideshow. Thank you so much for your time. I know I went over by a couple of minutes. I hope I don't get penalized too badly for this.